Hi friends, and welcome to this week's video. My name is Lane. I am a merch designer and illustrator, and this week I am feeling especially inspired by spring and the upcoming Easter holiday. So I decided to head over to my local Target to look at the Easter candy for some inspiration. I ended up picking 4 different candies that I thought were different enough to make 4 interesting little character illustrations. I ended up going with the Cadbury Creme egg, the mini eggs, this Neapolitan Lindor Truffle, as well as, of course, the classic Peeps. These 4 will be our inspiration. I also got some little pet shops, of course. With the rough idea in mind, I decided to go to Pinterest and make a board to sort of flesh out my ideas. And then it was time to jump right in. So my idea this week was to take the Easter candies that I picked out, draw a little dessert inspired by each one, and to also give each illustration its own bird. So this is essentially Easter candy dessert birds. For the first one, we are starting off with Peeps. I figured that one was the most straightforward, so it would be the easiest to start with. The bird I decided to pick for this was the baby chick. Either that's what Peeps are based on, or it just fits really well. For the dessert, I went with a Peep s'more. Kind of ignore the fact that that's a little graphic, given that it is a peep in that s'more. But I thought that basic idea played with the kind of whimsy that Peeps, have. Plus, I had never even thought of putting a peep in a s'more. Like, the concept itself, I just love. This design also led to a very playful color palette. The chick was, of course, yellow, and Peeps are often marshmallow colored, so I went with pink and blue and purple. So overall, the colors were just very fun, very spring. Obviously, 3 out of the 4 candies are chocolate, so there wasn't a ton of room for color variation. Other than this one, I tried to pick candies that we would actually eat, so not much outside of chocolate fit that. But now that we're done with the sketch, it's time to get into the line art for this one. In general, birds are not a type of animal that I draw very often at all. I could probably count on 2 hands the number of times that I have really went into a drawing to make a bird. It's just one of those animals that doesn't come super naturally to me. Given I said the same thing about sheeps before I made my mascot one, so everything just takes time and practice. But that's why I thought this week would be a nice little exercise for me. I think I struggled with this one the most as far as the actual bird. I have a tendency to resort to realism when I'm drawing something for the first time. That is just kind of something that was nailed into my head in art school. And obviously chicks are very cute, which kind of clashed with that desire to do realism. Getting this one to read as cute and in the style that I enjoy drawing in was very hard. In the end, I don't know if I'm entirely happy with it. I think it's close. It does fit within that semi-realistic but also kind of cute area, but I like to be pretty firmly in the cute area, so this definitely was good for me to do, and I will be able to do it better next time I draw like a little baby chicken. The colors on this one obviously was very easy since I did have those selected when I did the rough sketches. Baby chicks are normally pretty solidly yellow, but I decided to make this one have some white accents, just as a sort of homage to it being based on the marshmallow of a Peep. Shading, desserts in general, but also marshmallows is always so fun. And here I decided to try to redraw the eyes. I do think this second iteration is better. And with the eyes a little bigger, I was able to add a pop of color in there, kind of a dark purple with a white highlight. And of course I had to add some sprinkles to the chocolate part of the s'more. Really trying to get more of all of the colors in there. And then a white highlight to separate out all of the different layers, and then we are pretty much done with this Peep-inspired bird dessert. It's not my favorite of the bunch, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Up next is the Cadbury Creme egg. So I knew for one of these I wanted to do a pigeon because I just love those guys. And on Pinterest I came across this pigeon, which looked so much like a cream egg to me, or at least it had the potential to. Since those eggs are chocolate, brown on the outside and then a white cream on the inside, it was just chef's kiss perfect. So that is the animal and bird type I decided to go with for this one. For the dessert itself, I went with a Cadbury egg cupcake. I thought it would be especially fun to have the kind of like filling of the egg overflowing on the cupcake. I have drawn pigeons a couple of times now, so this one was just a lot more natural to me. I think this might be my favorite out of the bunch. I decided to mimic the orange center of the cream egg on the pigeon itself, giving it a kind of pale orange stomach. I think that detail was so perfect. Again, I love this one. And now for the line art. So as I mentioned, I usually struggle with birds, but I have done a few pigeons, so this one wasn't too bad, all things considered. To me, pigeons are like kind of organically shaped, kind of more fluid looking than a lot of birds in the way that they're, I guess, more fluffy and round. So that's probably why. And this dessert was also just super fun to draw. I love to draw the lines and icing. And of course that liquid egg center was also just fun to draw in general. If you like Cadbury cream eggs, let me know in the comments, because this is one I am not too crazy about. I definitely would have adored them as a kid, loving sugar and all, but now they're just a bit much for me. Anyways, onto the coloring. I started off with that pop of orange because that was one of my favorite parts. And then I just used the concept colors to fill in all of the blanks. Something about that pale orange, white, brown combo just really is super satisfying for me. It's like not a combination of colors that you see together all too often. Something about it just really works. In this version, I decided to make the cupcake frosting a bit of a darker, deeper orange because in the concept, it blended a little too much with the egg center. To add a little more interest, I added some sprinkles to the cupcake and used the same color to add some spots to the pigeon itself. That darkest brown was a little bottom heavy. In the concept, I had it in both the egg chocolate outside as well as the cupcake base. In this version, I decided to make the cupcake base the same color as the pigeon to sort of make the egg chocolate pop a bit more and have a bit more balance in the piece. The shading was super fun. I decided to use an orange color to shade the white just to really add more of the orange in the piece overall. Adding highlights to desserts, especially chocolate, is always fun. In general, this piece was just extremely fun to do. I really need to draw pigeons more. Whatever companies make Easter candy also need to make chocolate pigeons. Why is that not more common? I feel like they fit the Easter vibe well enough. A missed opportunity, if you ask me. Anyways, here I'm just adding the little white highlight. Always my favorite part of any piece ever. And with that, we are pretty much done with this one. Let's take a look at the final. And here she is. Our third bird of the lineup is the kind of weirder one, I guess, of the four. This is the bird dessert based on the Lindor chocolate truffle, the Neapolitan flavor specifically. Out of the four, this is the one that is probably least Easter themed. And it was a little hard because I knew I wanted to do at least 3 characters, but I did want to have like a backup in case one didn't work out, or if I wanted to do 4, which was the case. But my target really didn't have much that I thought would work well, and also that me or my partner would end up eating, because obviously I didn't want any of this to go to waste. I think with the strawberries and generally pastel color scheme, this one is at least spring themed, so I hope it's like close enough for you guys. The bird that this one is based on is the Himalayan white-browed rose finch, bit of a mouthful. And then as far as the actual dessert goes, I decided to go with ice cream because Neapolitan, but I went with like a rose-shaped ice cream to make it a little bit different from what I normally do. But back to the bird. This bird, I've never seen one before. I found it on Pinterest for this project. It's literally as if a Neapolitan ice cream came to life. Like, look at this guy. He has the chocolate, the strawberry, and the vanilla. So perfect. I would say the coloring is what I struggled with most on this one, specifically on the bird itself, since there are so many colors going on, and obviously birds are so detailed because each feather is kind of unique, its own color sometimes. So trying to simplify that in my style is a bit of a challenge, but you'll see that once I do the actual final colors. This one was easier because The concepts are just laying things down. Speaking of, it is now time to start the final. I would say overall, I'm happier with this than I am the chick. Face-wise, this one was a lot easier for me, mostly because it's a profile, so all I had to do was slap one eye on there. But the actual bird reference was really hard to translate, not only because of the colors, but the bird face is kind of an odd one. It's not so cutesy like a chick is. So I don't know that I necessarily represented exactly what the bird looks like here, but I found probably a happy in-between. Overall, this one is also just a bit more moody than my usual art, with the dark browns and light browns being the main focus of the color scheme. I'm glad I did end up going with the ice cream for this one, because between the colors and the design of this bird, this was probably the most out of my comfort zone, I would say. So it was nice that the food dessert part was something I'm very familiar with it being ice cream and chocolate and strawberries and stuff. Here's where I started on the colors, but specifically the feather and bird pattern of the color. I had to pull extra references for this one, because like I mentioned, I really wasn't sure how to tackle the feathers and the coloring. After looking at quite a few different photos, it seems that in this species of bird, each individual bird is quite different with where their colors are placed. So each one having that variation made it a bit easier on me. So I had a bit more liberty to put colors where I felt they worked versus where I thought they had to be based on what the bird normally looks like. Again, tackling stuff like feathers in a more simplistic style is just hard, because it's very easy to veer into being too detailed for the style. I think the end result is good enough, especially since I haven't done birds very much. And then of course, in comparison and in general, coloring the dessert was a breeze. Easter to me is such an underrated holiday. I mean, I feel like unlike Christmas, which is really widely used by different cultures, Easter probably still has a lot more of the religious connotation that it started with. So I get why, but to me, Easter, in theory, is my favorite holiday. Because not only do you get sweet treats like candy as if it were Halloween, but aesthetically speaking, it, for me, is the best. Because it has notions of spring with flowers, but also all of the colors are pastels, yellows, pinks, blues, purples. You can get together with friends and have brunch. I don't know, I just love Easter conceptually so much. I would love to hear in the comments what your favorite holiday to celebrate is, whether it's the activities or the aesthetic or whatever else. Back to the drawing, I had originally shaded the white areas with pale pink, but I decided to change it to sort of a warm gray, which is normally my go-to. And then here we're just adding some white highlights. And after this, I do circle back and add some more color highlights to the actual inside of the piece, because it was still feeling a little flat to me, and also I think I just forgot to do it originally. With that said, we are done with this one. Overall, I'm super happy with the end result. Now on to the last bird of the bunch. So the candy for this is the Cadbury mini eggs, which is by far my favorite Easter candy. For the dessert, I went with, I don't think it's actually a brownie, but it essentially is a layered dessert bar, I guess. And then the bird itself is a bluebird, which funnily enough, I knew that they existed. Bluebird that's a common animal bird type, but I had no clue what they looked like. I guess I kind of thought it was a term used to describe any kind of bird that's blue. I guess I didn't really clock that it is its own species of bird. I genuinely never would have guessed that this is what they look like, but I guess they do. When I was trying to find the name of the bird that I had seen on Pinterest, it said bluebird, and I was like, okay, yeah, I see it's a bluebird, but what kind of bird is it? Turns out that's what it is. Anyways, this one was pretty fun to draw as well, since although mini eggs are chocolate filled, with a candy coating on the outside like an M&M, they come in nice pastel colors, usually white, pink, yellow, and blue. So I thought the little bluebird fit this perfectly because it is usually blue on like the head and the wings and then brown on the actual body. So it kind of is layered like a mini egg. And we're already on to the final for this one. I would say similarly to the pigeon, this illustration was super easy for me. Probably because you don't get a lot of the wing detail from this point of view. Plus he's just like a chunky flat little guy. I guess this one is probably tied with the pigeon for my favorite out of the bunch. Drawing the cracked little mini eggs was also extremely fun. I didn't want to just draw them as is because they kind of just look like normal eggs, so I made sure to show the chocolate inside. I thought I was going to struggle so much more trying to find birds that fit these candies and desserts, but wow, birds are so candy coated. These were so easy to find and have them fit. Here I started on the colors. Again, I pulled from the concept, so it was pretty straightforward. Doing the color blocking on this guy was quite satisfying. If you could pick one of these 4 Easter desserts to eat, please let me know which one it would be. Because I am definitely torn. I feel like Neapolitan, I can have that all the time, and actually same with the Peep. The Cadbury egg cupcake in this though, that would be a special little treat. Anyways, in the concept, I had all of the browns the same shade, but I ended up changing the layering and the color on some of them just to add a bit of variation. Originally, the brownie was only 3 layers, but I ended up adding, I guess, kind of a frosting top layer. I'm really glad I did that because I love how the contrast turned out so much. And now it is time for the shading, which, since this guy is so poofy, was very fun. I ended up going with a very light pink to shade the white here, and in this case, I think it worked really well. And I'm very glad I went that route, although I do think a warm gray could have worked as well. I think all 4 of these guys will be stickers in my shop for my May shop update, which will be either Saturday, May 4th or the 11th, depending on how quickly I get the products I need. I'm not totally sure. I ended up drawing these not too long before I posted this video at the end of March, so right before Easter pretty much. So unfortunately, I didn't have them done in time to make them into any products for this year's Easter, so I was contemplating whether I should just release them as soon as I could afterwards and not worry about the actual holiday having passed, or if I should save them for next Easter. But some people in my Discord told me they would be willing to buy them whenever, and I guess they are just candy birds, so it's not like a huge deal if I release them after Easter. Which is to say, if you like these guys, keep your eyes out. Anyways, I thought that the blue and the brown on the bird's feathers were pretty low contrast, so I ended up adding that darker brown outline. And here I'm just adding some highlights, finishing touches. I added some star and confetti sprinkles to add a little bit of color to that middle section, and then we were done. And here it is. And here are all 4 of the little dessert Easter birds together. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I had so much fun drawing these guys and making this video for you. If you celebrate Easter, I hope yours is wonderful, or otherwise just have a good weekend. I will see you in the next one.